For 10 years, we have been telling you that the computing war is fought over nanometers, transistor, and thermal benchmarks. It's a completely lie. While us nerds were busy obsessing over hardware specs and the executive at Intel and AMD were drunk on their own arrogance, Jensen Huang was quietly building an invisible prison. Today, we are not talking about silicon. Today, we are doing an autopsy of the biggest strategic disaster in Silicon Valley. And I will show you exactly how an entire industry got trapped inside a fence called CUDA. Let's start with AMD. If we look at RAV hardware, AMD is a beast. Their Instinct accelerator and EPIC processors push massive amount of RAV compute. On paper, they should be destroying NVIDIA. But hardware without a functional software stack is just expensive, heated sand, and AMD's software ecosystem has been a legendary nightmare. While NVIDIA was making CUDA a flawless plug-and-play experience, try to install and run Radeon Open Compute on a Linux distribution felt like performing dark magic. Broken dependencies, unsupported hardware, kernel panics, and GitHub repositories that look like graveyards of unanswered developer cries. AI researchers and data scientists don't want to spend 3 days compiling driver and fighting their operative system. They just want to write import torch and train their dumb models. Because AMD treats software as an afterthought, an entire generation of developers simply gave up and bought an NVIDIA GPU. The hardware was capable, but the bridge to use it was broken. I'll be honest with you guys. I never bought an AMD Compute GPU for my own setups, not once. And it's not because I don't like their hardware, it's because I value my sanity. As a tech guy, before I buy hardware, I read the documentation and the forums. And looking at the AMD software ecosystem from the outside was like watching a train crash in slow motion. Why would I spend thousands of dollars on a GPU just to become an unpaid beta tester for their broken drivers? Like everyone else, I took one look and that mess, sighed and walked straight into NVIDIA's trap. If AMD's failure was loud and chaotic, Intel's disaster was something much quieter and much more dangerous. It was pure naivety. Let's rewind a bit. For decades, the x86 architecture was the undisputed king of the data center. Intel looked at the global server racks and saw only their own reflection. They were printing money. And when NVIDIA started pushing GPUs for general purpose compute and early machine learning, Intel's executives just smiled. To them, GPUs were just toys, silicon designed to render shadows in video games. They fundamentally misunderstood the future of mathematics. Deep learning isn't about complex sequential logic that a CPU excels at. It's about doing millions of incredible simple calculations simultaneously. It's parallel computing. But Intel slept peacefully inside their x86 fortress. Their fatal naivety was believing that because they were the biggest player in the room, they could simply wake up whenever they want and buy their way into a new market. They thought the tech industry would wait for them. They didn't realize that while we were resting on their laurels, Jensen Huang was planting seeds in every university on the planet. I didn't just read about this vendor lock-in on some tech blog. I live it. Years ago, working with professional 3D software like Autodesk Maya, I realized something terrifying about the industry. If you wanted to render a complex scene fast, you needed a GPU renderer. But if you won't try to use an AMD card, good luck. The entire professional 3D pipeline was held hostage by CUDA. I didn't buy an NVIDIA card because I love the company. I bought it because the software ecosystem basically pointed a gun at my hand and said, no CUDA, no render. That's exactly how the trap works, and they just copy-paste the same exact strategy into the AI market. And by the way, it took me 5 extra days to edit this video because an NVIDIA driver update sent my Linux workstation into a kernel panic. The irony is definitely not lost on me. And this is exactly where the trap snapped shut. While Intel was sleeping and AMD was shipping broken code, Jensen Huang executed the most ruthless software monopoly of our generation. He didn't act like a hardware salesman, he acted like a dealer giving away the first dose of free NVIDIA, pushed their CUDA libraries into every major university and research lab. They made it free, they made it well documented, and they made it the absolute standard for an entire generation of students. Fast forward to the AI explosion, when companies rushed to build massive language models, they realized a terrifying truth. The entire ecosystem was rigged. PyTorch, TensorFlow, every major AI framework was built, optimized, and deeply entangled with CUDA. You can just buy an AMD Instinct or an Intel Gaudi accelerator and it run. The code literally speaks NVIDIA's proprietary language. It's the ultimate vendor lock-in. NVIDIA doesn't dominate because their silicon is magical. They dominate because they own the compiler, they own the libraries, they hold the entire open source AI community hostage inside a walled garden made of green grass. But here is the thing about walled gardens. Eventually, developers figure out how to dig a tunnel. The tech industry hates being held hostage, and the open source community has finally started compiling a jailbreak. We are seeing the rise of powerful abstraction layers, projects like OpenAI's Triton, or the UXL Foundation, an alliance of tech giants desperate to break NVIDIA grip. Their goal is beautifully simple: write the code once and run it on anything, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, or custom silicon. They are trying to make the underlying hardware completely irrelevant again. Jensen Huang's green trap is brilliant, and for now the lock holds strong. But for the first time in a decade, we are starting to see cracks in the glass. The question isn't if the walls of CUDA will eventually fall. The question is, who will write the open source code that finally breaks them? What do you guys think? Will the UXL Foundation actually crack the CUDA wall, or is NVIDIA's monopoly too strong? Let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, hitting the subscribe button helps this fresh channel grow more than you know. See you in the next one.